Hey, this is Justin Morgan. I'm with Wood& Morgan, and I'm speaking with Forrest Wiederman of Bank of America Practice Solutions. Forrest, go ahead and introduce yourself. We've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. So, as you mentioned, my name is Forrest Wiederman with Bank of America Practice Solutions. So, I cover Northern California and Northern Nevada, and I specialize in our dental projects. So, whether you're starting from scratch or if you're an established doctor looking to expand, relocate, buy your building, remodel, equipment, anything project based, that's what I specialize.
Cool. And so at this point, we're just kind of recapping 2023. Do you want to talk about that year for you? What were some challenges in your marketplace, and what were some positive bright spots?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll talk just specifically on the Bay Area because that's probably the biggest market for me in my territory. So 2023 was actually a great year, believe it or not, despite high interest rates and everything going on in the economy. We had a lot of projects start and a lot of projects continue, and doctors wanting to build. I mean, a big piece of that is, I mean, we've been doing this for 25 years, and dentistry is such a recession-proof industry that practices are strong and people are continuing to grow. So I would say last year was awesome, and I'm looking forward to projects continuing into the new year.
Cool. And what were some of the challenges you faced and your clients faced last
Yeah.
year?
So the biggest challenge for me and my clients in this market, I would say, is just the entire process from start to finish in building a dental practice, right? Because especially when it comes to whether you're buying a building or leasing out a space, the most successful ones that I have seen have started their due diligence period early on, as well as like the design, getting a contractor and an equipment specialist into a space early on before either buying the building or signing their lease so they can start laying it out based off of what their goals are, how many operatories they want, the type of vision, feel, look for the practice. Because essentially you don't want to rush when you're getting to the closing table, whether you're signing your lease or buying your building. Because for me, what I've noticed is how long it takes to get permits and then build, right? Specifically in San Francisco, it's very challenging to do a project just because there's a lot of union buildings and it's very expensive. And everything in San Francisco is very expensive: wages, rent, utilities, all of that. So there's challenges there. It's the same thing in the South Bay as well. Just because it's so expensive, it's $1,000 a square foot to buy a building, and then another, you never know, $300 to $400 to build it out. So I've been seeing a lot of growth kind of in the Central Valley and the East Bay. There's still a lot of projects going on in the South Bay, and a handful in San Francisco. But the East Bay is growing a lot, and people are really moving up to Sacramento and even into Reno too. So really, the biggest challenges are getting projects done on a timely manner because, in our experience, if for every single month that you're not open, you're losing twenty to $30,000 a month in production. So that's huge.
Yeah, from my perspective, I do a fair number of startups on the legal side, and it can take a couple months to get from LOI to closing the lease. And every once in a while, we hear really kind of frustrating stories about how long it takes to get permits, how long it takes to build. And if they're not ready to go with their contractor at the time of signing, I usually try to push it off a little while to make sure that everything's lined up. How long is it taking, on average to complete projects? Are you?
Yeah, so I would say from when you submit permits to the city, I've seen anywhere from 8 months upwards of, sometimes it can be a year and a half, because like I mentioned earlier, the permitting is a big problem. Some of these cities are just very slow. Like some of the cities in the South Bay, I had my contractors yesterday tell me that one of his projects in San Jose, it's been a year and they don't even have their permit yet.
Yeah.
So that's a huge challenge that we've seen when it comes to that. So I would say, I mean, A quick one from like everything went perfect, which we both know none of them actually go perfect. Um, Anywhere from I would say probably 8 to 14 months would be kind of a general number or yeah, time range.
Wow. Okay. And are landlords giving that much, um, let's just say leeway or play in terms of rent commencement date?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've seen actually a lot of favorable leases come across when it comes to not even just startups, relocations where they're not buying their building.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really the three things that I care most about. Number one is obviously the free rent period when you're building out the practice, which is negotiated in the lease up front. The rent rate, which is also a big part of it as well. And then most importantly is tenant improvement allowance,
Yeah.
which for those of you that don't know what that is, that's essentially a certain dollar per square foot that the landlord is going to pay towards the build out. And the reason that we need more of that in my territory is just because of the cost of construction. So, in addition to that, what we've been trying to do, which has been very successful, has been actually finding what's called a shell practice or a second gen space where the doctor had left, and it's a completely built out dental space that essentially just you reassign the lease and you can do like a facelift, replace the equipment, and that's going to save you time from obviously not having to potentially not having to pull permits if it's already built out. And you just need some new paint or new carpet or whatever that looks like, and then installing new equipment. It's a huge cost savings and time savings, but I will say the question that I always ask when we come across those shell spaces is what was that dental practice before, right? Was that practice so strong and the doctor was thriving that they moved down the street, bought a building, and added 4 operatories? Or did that practice go upside down, right? And that's something that you want to make sure that you talk about up front and find out before you spend too much time on it.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of those as clients have struggled to find space and struggle to find larger practices to buy. So I think that's the right thing. Um, did we talk about, the positives? Like, I mean, what went really well in 2023?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, for me, my favorite thing is going to an open house, right? Or a finished product and getting to see the hard work that we've taken sometimes over a year to get done. So that's always a benefit, but that's personally for me. But in terms of the market, I would say number one, there's a lot more spaces available. We've noticed for startups specifically. Um, like you mentioned earlier, the concessions from landlords. The landlords are very willing to give a lot of money to get a long-term, low risk tenant in there for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years.
Yeah.
And then on top of that too, I've seen construction costs have flattened, which has been good because they were really increasing there the last couple years. And then I would say, in addition to that, there's a lot of startups. I mean, we've been seeing startups going up all over the place. And I love to see that because that just shows all the education that is out there
Mhm.
has really been reaching the clients and reaching the associates essentially. Because I mean, everybody comes out of school thinking, I need to buy, I need to buy, I need to buy, right? A lot of people don't realize that starting up a practice from scratch is doable, right? I mean, we have plenty of doctors that have been looking for the perfect practice for the last 5 years when they could have went down the street and build their own and already be up and running. So I think I love to see how many people are confident in being ready to start up a practice. So I would say those are a few things that I'm excited about and that are positives that I've seen.
That's great. And then moving also into positive, what's your favorite win of 2023?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I have a client. I'll give her a shout out. Her name is Ashley Hoves. She's up in Folsom and has her now second practice in Roseville. So she put together a retreat last year and brought about 50 doctors from across the country at all different stages of their career. Some were looking to start up a practice, some just started up a practice, some were looking to do their second practice. But for me, like we do all these business seminars and we don't get to see not necessarily the clinical side, but what this one focused on was more on the mental health, which I thought was very interesting because a lot of these doctors, I mean, they're running businesses, they're running their families. There's so much that goes into it. People don't really talk about the stress that comes with that. So getting to see the success stories and people sharing how they got through that was really just, it makes you take a step back and realize like we're really making a huge impact in these doctors' lives. So for me, that was a very humbling experience, just getting to see some very well-known, well-renowned speakers up there talking about their experience through stress and building practices and building their families. And because I mean, as an owner, you have so many different hats. You're there's CEO, you're the CFO, you have a family, you're mom or dad. Like there's a lot of things to juggle, and it was really cool for me getting to see that.
That's great, man. Um, and lastly, what are you looking forward to in 2024?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to just continuing to grow this market and work with the people that I really enjoy working with, which I really enjoy helping these doctors. It's one of the biggest investments of their entire life, and it is a very stressful process. I mean, building anything is stressful, let alone a dental practice. So I would say just continue to do what we're doing, and I mean, we've really had a great opportunity to help a lot of people. So I'm just looking forward to another great year.
That's great, man. Well, thank you for your time today. And yeah, I will talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Good seeing you.
Amen.